and being a part of the show, how are you with the gambling afterwards? Like, are you like, all right, I'm ready to go to Vegas and all that?
Oh my God, I am the worst at gambling. We actually did have this incredible card boot camp that we got to do as a cast, where we got to learn how to handle cards, how to shuffle chips.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Hunter Cardinal. You're gonna be in Netflix's Bet, based on the anime series, the manga too. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it Kakegurui? I don't know if you've been saying
You
that
know,
or.
that's a great question. I feel like I would be the worst person to try to pronounce it well, but Kakegurui is how I've been drilling it in
See,
my head.
that sounds better. Yeah, you said
Yeah.
it better than me. So okay. Let's I don't know. Let's start like I want to talk more about like how you got started into acting, drama, and all that, and what was that bug that got you?
You know, that's a great question. I feel like the bug first bit me when I was very young. I had a lot of trouble, falling asleep as a kid, and I still do as an adult. But one of the things that happened is when my late grandmother, who was staying with us, she was visiting from New York here in Alberta, she would be in the room right beside me. And I would, like, of course, have trouble falling asleep, so I would sneak out in the hallway late at night and then, she'd quietly knock on the door, and then, she'd open it and be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Can I, like, can I hang out for a little bit?" And she was like, "Of course." And then, she'd get me all set up on the couch, and we were watching this show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I remember, and I was very young at the time, so I wasn't like 27, but I was very young, and I remember seeing how much joy and how much life there was in both the performers and the audience members. I was blown away that it was improvised too, and I think the thing that I still hear in my mind is just that laughter that I heard from my grandmother. And I just, again, was like, oh my gosh, I want to be immersed in this, whether it's an audience member or a performer. And yeah, it's one of the warmest fuzzies I have about that very foundational moment of why I do what I do.
So I guess after that, because whose line is anyways more like improv, and then so have you done that or versus the regular like the acting on the stage, or it's like kind of like a mixture of both?
Yeah, so that was that sort of vibe that, blew my mind when I was a kid. That's basically what carried me to going into theater. Initially, actually, just as a sidebar that's not important, but for some reason it's important for me to tell you, I was like obsessed about skateboarding growing up. Flatland skateboarding I thought was so cool. Rodney Mullen, my idol. And I was also like, I loved playing soccer too. About in junior high, I tore my ACL, and then I
Ooh.
was like, okay, both things that I really loved involved my knees intensively. So I had to kind of pivot more to the arts. I was obsessed about like drawing and painting, and then eventually I found my way into theater and kind of just stayed and got hyper focused and almost fixated on telling stories just because I've always loved it and it was always incredibly fun to do. But so it was kind of like this meandering journey. But in terms of acting training, I was lucky to get my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting from the University of Alberta. So I'm a big Shakespeare nerd and a huge hit at parties, as you can tell. So.
Well, yeah, you could be a hit with the guitar. I see the guitar in your background. You could be like just bust it out and play music.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's my decorational guitar. It's a reminder that one day I want to be able to play the guitar very well. But right now it's filling up the negative space, and I thought it's good. You gotta have that. You gotta have that.
Yeah, yeah. And before we go, I want to go touch upon the skateboarding because skateboarding is, I'm a fan, but I'm not a hardcore fan, just a little bit. And coming up soon, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4. I don't know what your realm is on that and whether you're excited about like.
I am so excited. I was actually wanting to do like a playthrough because I remember like, when I was sick or when I was, pretending to be sick to stay home from school, I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater so much. I loved that game. And like recently, I feel like the algorithm has been just serving me a lot of skateboarding stuff. And I'm
Hmm.
like, should I start skateboarding again? But then I'm just like, no, I got to be careful about my knees. But I'm definitely down to play any of the new releases. I just think it's so great for that to be coming out.
Yeah, no, it's a great way because let's say your knees still have time to just get ready, but the video game stuff you don't have to be intensive and do crazy stunts, so it's kind of there.
Yeah, and also there's the cool party trick of, if you see, uh, a skateboarding video, you can talk about the tricks that's going on. People love that. They don't. I don't get invited to parties very often, but yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so right now or upcoming Bet, and this is based on the anime live action, and it's going to be on Netflix. So for you being a part of this project, I want to know like the auditioning process and just being in this world and just whatever the future holds for you. So let's start off with the auditioning process.
Yeah, the auditioning process was hilarious because it was actually quite short for me. I did one audition for a show that, they had to change a lot about the description, the character names and whatnot. So I was like, okay, it's just another audition. Didn't know anything about, the ultimate distributor rather, Netflix. So it was kind of just an audition, standard one. I did it. Honestly, I was mostly focused on I was doing that self-tape with a reader, someone who is very close in my life. So I was like, I just hope they have fun and I have fun because sometimes auditions can be a little bit stressful. So I was just focusing on that. Sent the tape off, did have fun. That was the win. And then literally, like a month later, I found out that I was cast just off of one audition, no testing, no chemistry reads, nothing like that.
Wow.
And then a month later, I was in Toronto, drinking from a fire hose with a straw. So it was wild. But again, I have a background in theater and whatnot, so it wasn't like I was completely, on my own. But yeah, this show is a wild one. It's set at a prestigious boarding school for the children of the global elite. And its social hierarchy and how the school kind of functions and its purpose is all built around these wild games of gambling, these sort of opportunities to show who gets eaten and who eats at this school. So it's pretty intense, and my character Michael is the school outsider. So he's the one guy who refuses to participate in this. So he's the moral compass of and trying to just not be involved at all costs.
Yeah, see, an outsider, but I feel like the smartest of the bunch because when you're in this world, you're gambling, they're gambling their. I'm pretty sure, like, if it's close to the anime, they're gambling their lives.
Literally, well, like that's the thing too. Like I was fascinated with Michael because it was this question of, okay, so why is this person there and refusing to participate? I had a ton of questions for that I was trying to explore with Michael. And I got to the point where I was like, is this really about like the freedom of choice to like not participate in the system, to not enforce that? Or is that just like getting too intellectual and really what he's trying to do is, distract himself from the sights, sounds, and smells of a system that breaks the loudest first? So it's some intense stuff that's going on in this show, and it was a blast to explore.
Oh yeah, and being a part of the show, how are you with the gambling afterwards? Like, are you like, all right, I'm ready to go to Vegas and all that?
Oh my God, I am the worst at gambling. We actually did have this incredible card boot camp that we got to do as a cast, where we got to learn how to handle cards, how to shuffle chips, learn some card tricks and whatnot. And for me, this shows you like the gambling insight that I have. I was more fascinated by asking one of the artists that we were working with, Calvin Song, how do you as a pro look at someone who is another pro and see how they're kind of trying to work their magic. And because I was really interested in how Michael grew up in this world. Why is he always on the outside and whatnot? And so Calvin was telling me he broke it down in this incredibly precise art form where he'd be looking at all the misdirection, all the ways that they're building relationships, scanning social norms and nuances and whatnot. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is why Michael is often seen in the first episode as trying to be on the outside. It's not also that he's trying to just refuse to participate, but it's the safest place. It's important to see what's going on, and it keeps him, from getting basically devoured by the school system as well. So that's basically what my exploration was into gambling. And then I was like, you know what? That's for much smarter and capable folks than myself.
Yeah, because there's so many layers to this with like how the professional gambler, how they look at people and looking at the cards or looking at like different tricks and all that, and just having like a great like photographic memory. So I'm like, yeah, for me, I'm like, oh, I'll be terrible at that.
No, same. But like the cast, they all picked it up like beautifully. It was so rad to see how many like card shuffles that they could do in the show, and something that I'm really proud of too, because there's a lot of effort that went into this.
Oh yeah, and I think another interesting thing, like just this world, because when you're dealing with money, when you're dealing with people's lives, I'm pretty sure there's people that want to take advantage of winning, and that's whether it's cheating or not. And so with that, I'm like, I guess there is no there's no moral compass for a lot of these students, and so I guess for you, like if you were to be in that world, would you be more like the Michael type, or would you try to find a way to win?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, if me for real was if this wasn't like a recorded interview, like and maybe it's not like I'll just tell you just honestly, I feel like I would be the one kid in the improv club that doesn't gamble but is in the improv club. So I feel like that's where, I would be because it's intense. I don't think I don't think I could last very long at all if I was actually forced to gamble. I would immediately fold and then run away from the school.
Yeah, because that there's a lot of tension there with the battles between the different students, and I think like just the concept, right? Like you think one student's like at the top, but then they aren't, and then they would become a pet, and so for you, just being in this world, do you see life differently now? Like with just how crazy like this world could be, and you're like, oh, I want no part of that.
That's a really great question. There's like obviously a lot of resonance in, being in that role, seeing this world. I think for me, it really became this question of, when the odds are stacked, what are you willing to risk for revenge, power, or freedom? And to me, that central question is fascinating because then, it's essentially like a threshold, a doorway to walk through and kind of reflect on what are the things that I am in my life leaving up to chance? What am I willing to trust? And
Mm.
that's wild. And so for me, when I'm seeing, the cast reacting when we were reading the scripts for the first time, what I was most excited about is the discussion that would happen afterwards. The condemnation of actions, the celebration of others, and using those as more of like a reflection of what that person values. Because in a way, that sort of moral compass is not something that can be, as you said, objective. It's honestly, in its own way, almost like a wager in and of itself of what we believe is right. And that gets into uncomfortable territory very quickly, and then you just have to see how it ends.
Oh yeah. And I was wondering for you, like, who do you think out of the cast members is most like their character?
Okay, you know what's wild? I want to give props to Larissa Mayer, our casting director, and Simon. They had this incredible knack to cast our great group of actors from the inside out. So they were looking for people that really resonated, that understood the world of their character on the inside, and then trusting because they were aligned with that, that they'll know what story needs to be told, that they'll fit perfectly into place. So the thing about that is that everyone in the show was a reflection of their character. And like everyone also had moments where they're just like, oh, I don't know why I was cast like I'm not that. And then they would proceed to act in ways that were 100% aligned with their character. The one thing that I find really funny is, I'm excited for fans to be seeing the show is Once they learn about our different like star charts and our astrology, their minds are going to be blown because that was the most honest reflection of who the characters were. Michael, for those folks who are interested in that character, I'm like a Scorpio stellium, and it makes so much sense. And then you go into the other actors like Miku Martineau and Clara and Aviva, and it's just chef's kiss. It's beautiful.
So it's like the stars are aligning with just the casting process.
100%. Absolutely. Literally and metaphorically. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with trying to adapt into like an anime and then a manga, it's going to be a lot of challenges, right? So, what is it like for you just being in this world and your feeling on how things are going to be perceived? And do you feel nervous or do you feel excitement?
Oh, I feel like so many things all at the same time. Sometimes it's kind of like a crowded elevator where everyone tries to leave at the same time, just fit their way through the door. But for me, I think ultimately, like the kind of actor that I am, I'm not interested in playing games of mimicry. I'm not interested in, barging into someone's home and being like, "I'm your mother now. You have to like this show," and it's just silly. So I feel like the manga is perfect as it is. Like, there's no way that you can improve on perfection. And I'm not interested in trying to barge in again and take something away from a fandom that cherishes that universe so much. But for me, what I am interested in is that core question that we're revolving that I mentioned before of like, what are we actually willing to risk, to bet on, to leave up to chance? And then asking more questions about like, well, why that? And if it comes at the cost of, your power, your freedom, or even the potential for revenge or for justice, is it worth it? That's something that's really gripping for me and what I'm really excited for fans of our show to be asking. And then also too, like, do you ever, when you grow up, like your parents are just like, oh, there's a kid next door who's your age, and then all of a sudden you're trying to force them to be friends with you, and vice versa. I feel like, with the manga or the anime and our show, I'm just like, if there's an alignment that needs to happen, it'll happen. That connection will be there, but I don't want to force anyone to try to like our show. There's so much going on in the world. I feel like if people need to be upset or excited about something, they gotta channel it somewhere too. So I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, and I think with just this show, and then let's say because I don't know, like the genre. What would you describe that genre for this? Like drama. There's drama, yes, but it's like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, trying to describe this in one word is hard. I just say wild, maybe that's a genre. But maybe it's a drama, maybe it's a dramedy. I think maybe Netflix might have it as listed as a drama, but it's just such a wild ride. Because there's both ends of the spectrum. There's, the high camp comedy, action-packed stuff, and then there's also the other side of that, the pain, the grief, the fear and whatnot. So it's really comprehensive, and I think it really balances that needle or threads that needle very well.
yeah, and I guess I want to know more about just when getting the role for this, the research. Like, what was your research like for this?
Okay, so my research process is basically think of as many questions as you can and get distracted by other questions that you could be looking up as well. So like for me, it's all like throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall, see what sticks. The questions and sort of like mental map that I had in my mind going into this process kind of looked like one of those conspiracy bulletin boards, which is strings everywhere connecting. And I remember when I got the scripts and I was like reading it, I was living in a really great place in Toronto for this process. It was a heritage home, and I was actually staying with a castmate Io. And I picked the basement because it's like really cool, and I really like the smell of the old bricks. And it sort of reminded me of the smell of libraries. And there's one line that I think got cut from the script. And I remember early on in the process when I was learning that line, Michael is talking to Yumiko, and he's saying like that the reason why he loves being in the library is because he likes the quiet. And that moment I was like, oh my gosh, like he's much more of a sensory person than I anticipated. And, all those questions kind of faded away. And I was just there thinking about how in the silence, you make room for other senses. And then I started thinking about the smell of old books. And I was like, okay, so the sense of quiet, the smell of old books, the sense of an opportunity to fix things or think of things or create a solution. I was like, okay, that vibe makes sense. But then in the background of my thought process and my sort of spiraling in the basement was the playlist that I created for Michael. I kind of just picked playlists or songs rather that I felt just a vibe. I was like, this makes sense. One of them was the song "This Must Be the Place" by the Talking Heads. And it's this beautiful song that talks about, this type of love, this type of connection, this pursuit of that really meaningful connection. Um, that I was like, I wonder if Michael has ever felt that in his life. And if he listens to that song, is it from a place of, I remember this? Or if it's almost like a nostalgia for something that never happened. And then that song kind of lives in this world of, a lamentation or a remembrance, a celebration of something that he holds dear. And so those vibes, I feel like, really helped me lock into who Michael was because it wasn't like trying to carry forward all my bulletin boards with strings and rubber bands and whatnot, but it was more looking at what is he listening for? What is he present with? Who is he present with? And what is he aspiring to be or to reach? And for me, I was really stoked about that because I was like, in my body, I feel it. And like, let's roll, let's do the scene.
Oh yeah, and I think with this the concept gambling and just the tension right between the person against the other person, and so I was wondering if there's ever been that feeling for you of just whether in your career where there's like that tense moment where you're going up against another person and what that feeling was like on whether you want to just try to I don't know conquer or win over or you know what it's good yeah you can.
I feel like that question is one that I think about a lot, where it's like, you want to pursue excellence, but then excellence kind of comes at the cost of trying to dominate others, and it's this weird sort of thing, and you're kind of wrestling with it, and you're trying to be like, can I kind of pursue excellence, not from the place of trying to dominate, but trying to honor what it is that I'm doing and whatnot, and then getting cast in this also kind of blew my expectations or understanding what I thought the entertainment industry was about. There's so much that is out of one's control that you can't sort of begin to approach and try to optimize and try to even comprehend why it happens. I remember when I got a chance to talk with Simon after I'd been cast and we were doing some filming and whatnot. I kind of cornered him at a brunch that he was hosting, and I was like, Simon, like, what happened? Like, why did you cast me? I never got to know. That was actually my first question I asked my agent. I was like, did they say why? Um, what Simon said was something that was so frustratingly elegant and correct, which is just trust. That was the only thing that he really said, and that was the only thing that I feel like he really needed to say is, this industry I feel like is a lot about trust. It's a lot about, thinking about what you value, what guides you, what grounds you, what is hard to carry, whether that's excellence or competition or whatnot, and giving yourself the opportunity to choose to carry that which actually nurtures you, inspires you, grounds you to those warm fuzzies that we were talking about before, so that you can keep going and choosing to hold them close to your heart and just trust. So for me, it's been a practice of trying to internalize that. And some days I make progress, some days I do not. But again, you only have the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we're almost getting to the end part, but I want to ask you like in the future the dream part that you would like, like that one genre or that one type of character you want to portray.
Oh my gosh. I love characters that are deep, that have nuances, that kind of are stuck between labels and are pursuing to, what they want to do as opposed to necessarily being stuck to the label that other people think is what they are. So for me, I'm just trying to, again, practice that trust, that openness, trying to not get too much in my head because I'm always in there in the first place. So for me, as long as there's uh, multi-dimensional characters that are, somewhere between good and bad, depending on where they are in the story. I think that's really exciting for me. But also, and I feel like most importantly, getting to work with the creative teams that are bringing those characters and those stories to life, because that vibe is immaculate. And I again had a taste of that with Bet, and definitely wanting more in the future.
All right. Yeah, yeah. And can't wait for, once this comes out, everyone gets to check it out. And Hunter, just want to say it's a pleasure chatting with you. And
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much. No, pleasure chatting with you, and I'm excited for us to keep connecting over skateboarding too. So
Oh, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah.